I think this is sort of an obnoxious question because I feel like it's like you're an adult, who cares? But a lot of times when I'm reading memoirs, I'm thinking, I wonder what her family thinks, or I wonder what their partner thinks. And part of me thinks, like, who cares? Because it's your book. But I was curious to know, what does your family think about how they're portrayed and about some of the other stuff? And you said earlier that these were stories that you'd been telling. Were the people that you're closest to, are these stories that they already knew?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, like, they're all things, that my parents sort of remember, and, my husband didn't care that much because he wasn't really in it. But, but they, my parents, and, everyone has been, like, pretty cool about it, and, I think that they were expecting something much, much, much worse. But I was very conscious throughout that, like, while I wanted, while obviously, like, they have their sort of quibbles and their, like, eccentricities and do these sort of things, like, there's a lot of love behind their portrayals of the book, and I think that, they knew that, and that that was pretty clear, and they were pretty fine with it. And everyone in my family, myself included, has, like, a pretty good sense of humor about themselves, like, nobody really, and there's a couple that don't, but I left them out of the book. But, my grandfather says that he's reading it for the third time. He loves it. My parents have been, like, they're, like, pretty resigned to it. I think my mother's a little more sensitive about it than my father, but, she mostly thought it was pretty funny.
Now, did they read the second chapter?
Oh, yeah.
I know I would if it was my kid.
Oh, yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
It's really more for people that know my parents, who's like, because the Jewish community in Omaha is, like, so gossipy. Like, I wanted, like, it was more like a joke about that. Like, all of sort of my parents, like, people who, like, tangentially know my parents, who's like, look, if you're going to read this and then, like, bring it up to my mother, like, in the locker room at the J, then just, like, don't, But, so it was kind of like a joke about that. But yeah, of course they did, and they didn't have a problem with that. I mean, I've written about things that were a lot more personal, and I think they kind of figure that it's my life and my everything, and, wasn't really about that.
And you write about sex stuff in other places, like Nerve, and I published your blowjob essay.
Although I tend to not write about my own sexual experiences that much, I write about things that, for Nerve that's like,
cultural
more, and sometimes it has to do with, like, sex and sort of, like, gender issues and, like, sexual phenomena, but yeah, I'm not so much like right now there's not a lot to tell. I've been, I've been the same guy for 4 years, so I don't have too many stories left. But, and I think it's true that, like, my sex writing is very, like, unsexy, like, it's always sort of almost, like, satiric about sex rather than erotic, which is just sort of me, like, I'm not, I don't think I'm, like, a very sexy person now. But I do think that, like, being funny is sexy, and, like, a lot of sex stories are really hilarious. Like, but I am always one of those people that tends to, like, find, like, some, like, a detail outside of the actual sex act that I focus on. Like, I'll, like, I'd be, like, having sex and suddenly notice that, like, the grout in the bathroom is really dirty, and then it's like, and, like, that to me is, like, really funny.